Hey, what's up, guys? Bill the Universe, and I'm going to do the chart of Bill Hader. Um, yeah, if you've seen Barry, it's such a good show. It's really good. I've seen like every episode like 10 times. He's funny, good looking. Don't want to do his chart. So overall, before I actually go into the details, I do Vedic astrology, so that's a little bit different, but it's more accurate. So hear me out. Also, um, that's about it. So before I start with the details, overall, what I see in this chart is someone who's very, very, very deep, a very, very deep person. And ironically, because he's famous, this is actually the chart of someone who's very private, who's very emotional to the point of melancholy. But this is also, I also see placements or indicators of excellent intellect, speaking, and writing skills. So he's a Taurus moon. He's a Taurus sun, Gemini moon. Like I said, it's Vedic astrology, so it's a little bit different. So he's a Taurus sun, specifically the star of Rohini. So Rohini is either short and sexy, like Tom Holland or Prince, or they're tall and sexy. So if they're tall, it's because there's something, most likely Jupiter, that's like elongating their body. And he does have Jupiter conjunct Moon. So Jupiter endows you with a lot of size. So it can give you big thighs, a big butt, it can make you big body. It can give you a big dick too. But it also can, even if you're short and you're ruled by Jupiter, you can have like a big personality or a really big bank account. So Jupiter endows you, or you can just be really, really spiritual. Like in my old Bible study, I actually looked at everyone's charts, and like out of 10 dudes, like 4 or 5 of them had Jupiter conjunct their sun or their moon. So I wouldn't be surprised to find out that he's a very philosophical person or a very spiritual person. Moon rules Rohini. Sensual planet loves money. Yeah, so the moon rules Rohini. So Rohini is sitting in Taurus, but the moon rules the specific star of Rohini. And moon is can be kind of a princess, actually. So it's a very sensual planet. These people love money. They love relaxation. They love sensual pleasures. They love sex. They love, they just love to feel good. But Moon is the mind, and Rohini is all about growth and abundance and having a very kind of innocent, childlike kind of outlook on life. So, and for some reason, with that theme of just never ending abundance, right? And plus, Moon is the mind. This kind of I see a lot of people who do acid and shrooms and drugs in general. So that's actually a popular theme amongst Rohini people. And the fact that his sun is in the 12th house of hidden realms, this kind of like backs up that he's someone who's very sensual, very sexual, loves his sensual pleasures. There was a study done actually on UFC fighters, and most of them had a major placement in this star of Rohini in Taurus. So I think that's pretty interesting. I wonder if he's ever contemplated being a UFC fighter, or if he likes UFC fighting or whatever. But also, what I notice in Rohini men is that they're so smart that a lot of them will like be they're so smart, they'll kind of create this world for themselves, and this kind of like a magical pleasure dome that they can create. They can have sex, they can, it's just like a you can think of Willy Wonka. It's just this pleasure dome of just like sensory overload, which is pretty interesting. But also, because the moon rules Rohini, it's like, moon waxes and wanes, so it's like it's never still. So these people can be like religious one day and then the next day have a mood swing and then like be stone cold atheist. So a lot of famous atheists are moon ruled. So Hasta, Shravan, and Rohini. But I see a lot of like hardcore atheists being Rohini. So which is interesting because, like I said, I see a lot of spiritual placements here, but moon can be waxing or waning. So I wonder if he actually kind of goes back and forth depending on his mood. But Rohini is a very intelligent, super, super, super genius, like math, science person. So Oppenheimer, he was Rohini. Even the guy who played him, what's his fucking name? Kieran or I don't even know. But he's a Rohini as well. So I mean, Rohini has a lot to do with like really, really hyper intelligence. Looking at his moon chart, because I don't know what time he was born. His sun is in the 12th house. So that's why it's like interesting, because he's a famous person. But sun in the 12th house can actually make you kind of a recluse. It can make you introverted. It can make you want to dive into hidden world realms. Like I said, it can be a bit of depression or melancholy. They're very, very sensitive, and they're very, very, very deep people. And Pisces is the deepest water. And so he has his sun in the 12th house of Pisces. Again, also very sexual. He's got his sun in 12th house, Ketu in Pisces. Yeah, it can mean that with his sun in 12th house of Pisces and the fact that he has Ketu in Pisces, it can mean he's a very quiet person who really enjoys his downtime or his private time. Again, this is like super ironic. Like, this is not, you think of Bill Hader, you think of like Superbad or Saturday Night Live. It's just, where he's a fool. But, this is actually saying he's a very serious, deep person. There is an emphasis on drugs and alcohol, like I said, because with 12th sun in the 12th house. In rare cases, they can kind of disappear into the world of studies. So a lot of 12th house energy is about, what gives you pleasure, which is a lot of times sex. But sometimes it's actually more religious studies or philosophical studies, artistic studies. They like to like go into their own little office or library and just kind of like open books and just kind of dive into different realms and dimensions, and they can kind of see life that way as well. They can kind of get lost in their own head. They like to be alone. It's like I said, it's an isolation type of energy. This could be why he's kind of gay. So yeah, he's not gay at all, but I'm just saying, like, he does kind of, if you didn't know him and you saw him, if you caught him at the right time, you might wonder if he's gay. It's because his sun is in the 12th house of Pisces. Pisces is a mutable sign. And also Pisces just doesn't do labels. Pisces doesn't like labels. It's confusing. Pisces isn't about here or there, on or off, this or that. It's actually about the unity. So that's kind of why people with heavy Pisces energy, like this guy, people can wonder if they're gay, because they just don't do labels, and they're nice people, and they're non-discriminating, and they accept everyone. The other reason why it can be kind of a gay energy, it's really just the mutable signs. So Pisces, Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius. So he's got his sun in the 12th as a Pisces, but also he's a Gemini moon. So Gemini, specifically the star of Ardra. So Ardra is Betelgeuse, the star Betelgeuse. It's the shoulder of Orion the Hunter. So when you go outside, you look at the Orion's belt, which is 3 consecutive stars. And then you go look up north a little bit of that, you'll see a little red star, and that is Gemini. That's Betelgeuse. Betelgeuse, Ardra, for thousands of years, has been associated with being a predator. So, not to say that he's a predator, but these people are good at looking at something and then attacking and going for it. And Gemini is a very intelligent star, right? And then Rahu rules Gemini. So Rahu is very merciless. Rahu is like a predator, this star is also very common in salesmen. So I wonder if he ever thought about being a salesman. And it's a very go-getter type of energy. And so, yeah, and even today, it's like associated with being a predator because it's part of the constellation that we call Orion the Hunter, right? And so back in African mythology, this star was known as the lion. It was the lion's predatory gaze looking at Orion's belt, which was three white stars, and they would call that the three zebras. So that's kind of so even like thousands of years ago, people were associating Ardra with being a predator, being a fierce person, you know. So this is his moon. This is where his moon is. But it is Gemini, so it's multi-talented. Oh, and I was also going to say, what was interesting is I actually did a video on lion movies. And I have that video it's called Astrology, Lions and Astrology. And I looked at a bunch of, what's it called? Lion movies. And of all the scary lion movies, like almost all of them had their moon in Ardra, this exact same star. And I thought it was such a fucking crazy coincidence because, like I said, I was looking up lion movies and this star has lion mythology tied to it. So I thought that was crazy. Anyway, this is the star that his moon is under. Again, it's Gemini, so multi-talented. It's air sign, so he is logical. It's Gemini's the third house, so he is artistic. And third house is also competition. So it didn't give him a competitive streak. Because it's Gemini, it can make him jack of all trades, kind of knows a little bit about a lot of different things. Gemini being an air sign and being ruled by Mercury gives him can make him a great speaker, can give him good oratory skills. Ardra, believe it or not, is the most common placement for comedians. So off the top of my head, I know Jack Black is an Ardra native. Adam Sandler is an Ardra native. Bill Hader, you know. But the thing is that there can be a bit of depression with this Ardra placement. Like, he has depressing placements. I guess, what can I say? It's like nice. It's nice, but it's like, like depression. So what happens is, you know, they studied comedians and they realized that a lot of them had difficult childhoods, or a lot of them have depression, and so they use writing and laughter as kind of a saving grace, kind of a crutch, kind of like a lifesaver. So I think that's why Ardra is so popular with comedians, because it's Ardra can be depressing, but because it's Gemini, it gives him great writing skills and speaking skills. So that equals a comedian, right? And there, you know, there's a lot of pressure associated with this star of Ardra. You know, it's the symbol is a teardrop, or it's a diamond. So it's like there's so much pressure surrounding this placement that you can either become a cautionary tale, or it can turn you into a shiny diamond, depending on which way you choose. For example, my aunt is an Ardra native, and she was a teenage mom. You know, so like, she all of a sudden like had all this pressure on her, you know. But she turned into a diamond, because now she's almost 50. Her kids are like 30 years old, and she's killing it in life, you know. So his Rahu is in Uttara Falguni. That's in Virgo. Okay, so Rahu is your biggest desires in life, and Uttara Falguni is very masculine. It's almost like a gangster energy, just like hyper masculine, almost toxic masculine, right? So it can indicate that he wanted to become some type of gangster when he was a kid, some type of badass, some type of something, you know, some kind of hyper masculine anti-hero figure, which is so funny because that's kind of what Barry is, like a hyper masculine anti-hero figure. So it's kind of cool that you can see Bill Hader kind of living out his Rahu through the show, which is really healthy, because if he tried to live out that Rahu in his real life, it could most definitely lead to death. But because it was all fake, it was all just it's a TV show, that's like perfect. It's like giving the illusion that you achieved your Rahu, but it actually isn't, which is a good thing. So like, yeah, Uttara Falguni, it's a very masculine star. It's dominated by the sun. So Sun is the most masculine planet. So it can be very gangster. So Biggie Smalls, he had a very similar placement to this, and he was a gangster. My friend, has her Rahu in Uttara Falguni, like the exact same placement as Bill Hader. And she told me last like 2 years ago. I didn't even know this, but she's like, when I was a little girl, my biggest dream was to be a gangster's wife. So I thought that was really interesting. But yeah, Bill Hader in Barry, he plays a hitman. So it's a very gangster lifestyle. Like only hanging out with dangerous men, hyper masculine. People were surprised to see him playing a masculine character. And that's because Rahu isn't really who you are. And people can pick up on this like intuitively. So example, I was talking to my uncle and I was like, have you seen Barry? It's really, really good. You should see it. And he's like, that's with Bill Hader? And I said, yeah. And he goes, I don't know. I don't know. Like, isn't he supposed to be some type of like gangster or something like that? And I was like, yeah, he plays a hitman. And he was like, yeah, I don't buy it. I don't buy it that he's this like rough and tough dude. So, people can pick up on it intuitively. If you're living out like something that's not really truly you, and Rahu can deceive you like that. Rahu kind of makes you think like, yeah, this is what you're supposed to do. Yeah, do this. This is what you're put on earth for. And it's really just an ego trip, Yeah, so Rahu is your ego wants you to be. Rahu is who your ego wants you to be, but it's not exactly aligned with your earthly destiny. Achieving your Rahu can bring you lots of pleasure, but can actually be the cause of your death. In Barry, he dies at the end because of his dangerous life. According to Claire Nakti, you must go towards your Ketu to really achieve your Rahu. And his Rahu is in the very spiritual star. His Ketu is in the very spiritual star of Uttara Bhadrapada, a star in Pisces. Uttara Bhadrapada can be poor, but very spiritual and rich inwardly. Pisces also represents isolation. So at the end of the show, Barry does go into hiding in isolation, living a very much spiritual, religious lifestyle. So in this part of the show, he does live out his Ketu, which is actually the good part, So even in the show, he's expressing both ends of this Virgo Pisces Rahu axis. And I've been through this. I went to achieve my Rahu, but I literally almost died. And when I went back to New York just to visit, a man literally chased me with a knife screaming, it's time to kill this guy. I almost died when I lived in New York. And then when I went back 10 years later just to visit, I almost died again. It's crazy. But because Rahu is the ultimate temptation. But the frequency and vibration of our Rahu is not compatible with ourselves. This is why Rahu can be such a dangerous energy to work with. People who achieve their Rahu go through a lot of terrible pain because the frequency is not their natural frequency. They must sacrifice so much personally to get to the vibration of their Rahu, which is their biggest desires in life. Okay, guys, I think 18 minutes. That's good. Thank you, guys. Love you. Bye.